Today we are really pleased to have here at the Italian Cultural Institute in New York the president of the World Monument Funds, Bénédicte de Montlaur, and I think that you are doing a great job. The World Monument Funds is a great association. They are doing wonderful things all over the globe, all over the countries. So I would like to ask you, what's the history of this structure of the World Monument Fund?
Thank you so much, first of all, for having me here. It's really wonderful to be in this beautiful Italian Cultural Institute, beautiful building in New York, and a real landmark. and for me, it was really excellent to hear from you and welcome, because I know it's not been that long that you've been having this position. Because the history, in fact, of World Monuments Fund is very much linked to Italy. This is our birthplace. We were born because of the flooding in Venice. So when the big floodings happened, in November '66, World Monuments Fund was created in order to respond and to try to preserve as many buildings as possible. So we were part of this global movement to preserve Venice after this flooding. And I think Venice was really important for global heritage preservation, because this was one of those founding moments where people realized that this is not only Italian heritage, that there is a global responsibility to take care of it. So since then we've had like more than 30 projects in Venice that World Monuments Fund has completed, but very soon we expanded all over the world. So our founder, who was a retired colonel from the American Army, was very soon called, after what happened in Venice, to Lalibela in Ethiopia, and then to Easter Island, and starting working with communities everywhere to really preserve their most important cultural treasures. And so our way of working is really, we go somewhere, we try to constitute the best team we can, training local people, taking local expertise and bringing international expertise in order to preserve monuments and sites and create opportunities around them.
Yes, I'd like very much to ask you if people is really aware of what they have. Sometimes I think that in Italy we are not, or we were not aware of what we have. Many of the destruction of our monuments were done after the war. Actually, in the idea of creating a very modern Italy, and that everything in the past was dilapidated, was etc. So, in your experience, communities are really aware, or are you doing a great job also in order to educate them, to teach them how to deal with their history and their memories?
Well, you're right that sometimes heritage is taken for granted and people want new things, modern things. But I feel every time there is a threat to heritage, then people react immediately because they realize how much they care for it. So this was true when there was, for instance, a fire at Notre Dame Cathedral, but also the earthquake at Amatrice. People realize all of a sudden how much they care for this heritage when it's threatened. So I think, yes, there is a lot of awareness work to do about how important it is to preserve our past, and also how to find a balance, because it's not about just preserving everything. It's of course we are very interested in building new things and finding new use for existing building, but I think especially in this time after COVID, we all want to find a right balance between novelty, modernity, and what has been created by previous generations. So it's really how to find this balance.
You are French?
I am very French, as you can hear from my accent.
No, you have a wonderful English, really, very musical. I am asking you this because I think that French people are more courageous than Italian people. When it comes to this sort of balance. I am thinking about the pyramid in the center of the Louvre, or even, I remember the first time I came to Paris, Saint-Tropez. Of course, he was an Italian architect, but the idea of putting the Saint-Tropez in the middle of a city is very courageous. And now I know that there are also many discussions about Notre Dame, how to build the roof, etc. So you have also to deal with this sort of issues, not just rebuild or preserve, but how to preserve.
Exactly, because there is not one way. And one of the things that we are really trying to do is to engage the community as much as possible to make sure that what we design resonates with the
Yes.
community needs, how they see their city, you know, because you don't want monuments that are built and then preserved for people of the past.
Yes.
You want them to be, of course, respected and integrated into the life of today's citizen. But I think, you know, maybe you admire the courage of the French people. It didn't come without controversies, the pyramid of Beaubourg, and I think in the opposite direction, I don't know one French person who doesn't like to go to Italy. We all love Italy, so and admire so much Italian cultural heritage.
Thank you. And how do you hire or find the people who work with you? What kind of structure do you have in your association in the World Monument Fund?
Thank you for that question. So we are really a global community. We have many nationalities represented. We are an American nonprofit. Our headquarters are here in New York, but then we have offices in and affiliates in the UK, in Spain, in Portugal, in Peru, and in India. And then we have representatives in China and in Japan and in the Middle East. So we are very global. We have a team of permanent staff who are like top of their field, very good conservation experts. Some of them are engineers, some of them are architects.
How many?
Yeah.
How many?
So we have 40 permanent staff, but then in average, in a year, we employ around 400 people for more than 3 months. You know, it's also a domain where people work on and off, depending on the season. Very often it's outdoors. So some projects are only running for 3 months a year or 6 months a year. It really depends from one project to another. But I think the important thing to know is that everywhere in every place where we start a project, we first look at the local capacities, and we always want to train the local communities, because this is the main condition for the sustainability of our project.
Yes.
Because we never own any site or any monument. We don't own anything. We just come, work with local partners to do the project, and then we go after having trained enough people so that they can take over.
Of course. And this is maybe a delicate question, but do you have problems, issues with the different political system? I think it's a very delicate questions also to go in a country and to work for the preservation of some monuments that maybe have particular interest for one part of the country and not for the other part of the population. Or maybe there are some laws that do not care too much for the preservation or some interest. So do you have to deal also with this kind of problems?
You know, so we're trying not to enter into too many political issues, but where your question is excellent is that everything is political, and heritage very often is instrumentalized.
Exactly.
Because heritage represents the symbols of a society, of a country, and yeah, so very often it's instrumentalized. So we are trying as much as we can not to get into this, but to step in every time to protect cultural heritage. And so this is our line. Whenever you see us making a statement, it's really for protecting cultural heritage and the people who care for it. So we're always trying to remain focused on our mission.
What are now your most challenging projects?
We have many different different projects. Many of them
just some of them.
Yeah, many of them are challenging. Like we are finalizing an extraordinary project in China at the Forbidden City, and this is really extraordinary in terms of quality and expertise. This is this suite of pavilions inside the Forbidden City that are not open to the public. It's extraordinary interiors, and so we've worked and partnered with our colleagues at the Forbidden City to train a whole new generation of conservators and really restore this magnificent place. So of course it's been a challenge because of COVID, so we were supposed to inaugurate this project a year ago, and now hopefully we will inaugurate it next year. We are also working on many projects in Africa, which for me are extremely interesting, because I always feel that there is so much incredible heritage in Africa. You know, like just this morning I was having a meeting about Great Zimbabwe. Not many people know that place. It's just a fantastic site. We are also dealing with some sites in Sierra Leone associated with slave trade. So these sites in Africa are really interesting. I think for us, the challenge is that through each of our projects, we really want to learn and to experiment solutions to the main challenges and threats to heritage and to society. So for instance, climate change is going to be an incredible threat, because most of the cities of the world and human settlements were on the rivers and the coasts. So with water rising, and Venice is a good example of that, with water rising, a large majority of the heritage, of human heritage, is going to be threatened. So for us, we really have to experiment solutions to try to mitigate the impact of climate change. Another thing that is really important for us at the moment is to experiment new ways of dealing with tourism. And so, because I think COVID showed that before COVID, over-tourism was a problem, but during COVID, under-tourism was a problem too. So what you want is a balanced tourism. And so this is something that we are also looking at.
Yes, what in Italy we call it, as we speak about slow food, so also the slow tourism, which is a different way of getting acquainted with the territory, because
exactly. We just had a digital event on Venice, because Venice is our birthplace and has always been important for us. It was on our watch list, which is the list we publish every 2 years of sites which combines historical significance with contemporary relevance. And so Venice was on it again in I think 2014. And for us, it's important because we want to fight against the cruise ships.
Yes,
and
terrible.
Yeah, because
but now
and I was asking during this event to our speakers, what is a good tourist in Venice? And they were saying it's just a tourist who behaves as if he or she was an inhabitant, meaning, you know, you stay more than a single day, you eat local food, you go do some shopping. So this is it, like slow tourism, as you're saying. It's a good definition.
And also, it's very interesting what you said about the connection between preservation of monuments and sustainability, climate change. There is also the problem of desertification. On one side, too much water; on the other side, no water in many territories. So you are, I think you are really doing a great job also from that point of view, in order to get people to understand the problems connected with the climate change. Do you travel a lot?
I used to travel a lot, and
before COVID.
Before COVID, and because we have 47 active projects all over the world, and so I need to travel and also to see our teams. But you know, I think one of the things all of us learned during COVID is that all these trips, not all of them were necessary. Some of them are at certain crucial point, but you can cut some of the travel, which is something really great. And also we all got used to instruments that we are not using that much in the past. Like now I feel I'm traveling every day from my living room thanks to Zoom. But I can have a meeting from Georgia and then a meeting from China and then I'm going to India. So it's really wonderful. And you know, people didn't have that reflex before. So I'm traveling in a different way.
Yes, we are ubiquitous. We can be in several different places in the same moment.
Exactly.
So it's very strange. But I think you, if I'm not wrong, you have a very interesting professional history, because you used to work, I think, in Africa, or?
I used to be a French diplomat, so I was a Middle East specialist. I learned Arabic in Cairo, and then I lived also in Yemen. And then I entered the diplomatic career and I was posted in Syria for 3 years, which was really fascinating. I was living, in fact, in a beautiful house in the old city of Damascus that I renovated. When I arrived, there was almost no water, and it was so extraordinary in front of the Umayyad Mosque, and just walking in those streets every morning were like
and
was
how
really
did you
fascinating.
make this transition?
I made the transition because I arrived to New York to work at the Security Council, and then I met my husband, who is American. So I thought, well, now I have for some years to stay in New York, and I also had the privilege to serve as cultural counselor for France in the United States. And like you, we have a very big cultural operation, and that really introduced me to cultural diplomacy. So I thought it was really a fantastic opportunity to do, also to really be active in cultural diplomacy, because this is what we are doing. When an American nonprofit is active in China, this is cultural diplomacy. Or when we work in Pakistan and in India, it's also cultural diplomacy. So it was a fantastic opportunity to continue trying to really improve understanding between peoples, but doing it in a private setting at World Monuments Fund, because World Monuments Fund is a totally private, independent organization. So everything we do it thanks from donations, from individuals, from foundation, and sometimes for government who help for specific projects.
Is there a difference in the attitude about donation in the different countries, you know? I mean,
of course, like philanthropy is very American, and it's a wonderful thing about the United States, where people really believe in the individual initiative. Whereas I think in Europe, we are more used to government support and less to, so people feel like they've paid their taxes, so that they don't need to support financially organization. Here, the feeling is completely different. If you want something to happen, then you need to support this organization. And so it's like most of the cultural institutions in this country live out of philanthropy. So it's a totally different world, but you know, it has some positive side, which is much more margin for maneuver. You can propose your projects and you find support for it.
Yes, because you can have money only if you have projects here in the States. And it's true also that the taxation system is different from Italy, for instance. So
it's different, but now, you know, in Europe they've made a lot of progress as well. And I think the tax deductibility in France, for instance, I don't know for Italy, but it's the same, almost comparable as for here. So then it's a question also of educating people, of giving back. This is something really incredible about the American mentality, is that if you're successful, you feel that you shouldn't keep your money for yourself, but you should give it back to society where you think it's important. So that's a very interesting state of mind.
Yes, there is also a different relation between generations. I mean, the Americans think that in a way their children must find their own way with their own strength, and so they can use some of their money for the community, not all the money for the family.
Absolutely.
It's a different anthropology, I would say.
No, it's a very different culture and different way to run cultural institutions. And at the same time, it's really wonderful to have like Ministry of Culture and a very strong national policy for culture. It has some extremely positive sides about it.
Absolutely.
Because the government can decide to fund things that nobody else wants to fund, which is really important.
Yes.
So, you know, there are some positive sides on both sides of the Atlantic.
Yes, we have a wonderful institution for restoration, for instance, I would say in Italy, like l'Opificio delle Pietre Dure in Florence, la Scuola del Restauro di Brandi. So there are some wonderful places where you can, you know that you will find a lot of expertise. And of course, so many things to preserve that it's difficult without the sustain.
I have to say that Italy is such a treasure trove for cultural heritage. I discovered it while after joining World Monuments Fund, is that of course our team is very international, but there is always an Italian somewhere. Where in this field of cultural heritage, like the Italian experts are everywhere.
Did you travel around Italy?
Of course, like. I've traveled a lot, not in my professional capacity, but before that, as a tourist, I would say. I traveled a lot, but I plan to go as president of World Monuments Fund because we've had so many projects in Venice at the moment. We are trying to help also the project on the Venetian ghetto, where they are renovating an ensemble of synagogue to really make it a museum of the ghetto. So we are, it's one of on the places where we were involved in the past, and we'll continue supporting.
Great, so this is great.
A great project because it also ties in one of our priorities, which is to elevate underrepresented heritage. So any place we go, we try really to look at the diversity of voices and to elevate heritage that is not necessarily the dominant heritage or the most well-known heritage. So that plays differently in different places. Here in the US, we've had a whole wonderful project about the heritage and oral history of the leaders of the civil rights. So that was in Alabama. And we are also working on Native American heritage in Utah, in Bears Ears. But you know, in Italy, the Jewish ghetto is not the most well-known place in Venice, but for us it's important also to elevate this heritage. And as a whole, I would say, I would come back to what I was saying before, Africa as a whole, the African heritage is so important, and we think it really needs to be elevated as well. And we need to make sure that everybody knows about the incredible, you know, sites and monuments that you can find there.
How can people help you? I mean,
a lot of depending on who you are and what your interests are, you can help us in many different ways. If you just want to learn and you're just curious, you go on our website. We have a newsletter. We have digital events. Wonderful. And digital events that are really targeting different audiences. We have something called Heritage from Home, where you can travel virtually to our sites. We have something that is called On My Watch, that is more with specialists, conservation.
So the website is the World Monument Fund.
It's WMF.org. WMF.org.
We will put the link.
Thank you. And so that's one way, just to get to know more about us, and then you can become a member, and there are different levels of membership depending on what you want to do. And if you're a specialist of or someone who really cares, for instance, about a site, we have every 2 years we publish something that is called the watch list, and that is a list of 25 sites, and this is all nomination based. So people, if you are like, it's all the nominations are coming from local partners. So it can be a professor, it can be a local NGO, it can be many different actors. If they want to partner with us, if they think there is a need for an urgent intervention at one site that they care for, they can nominate a site. And in an opposite direction, people who have means and who are really interested in this and want to help preserve, of course, they can make donations to us.
Do you have many donations? I mean, do you think that things changed with the COVID? More donations, less donations? Because I would think that the COVID brought people to concentrate more on culture and on what is interesting for their life.
Yeah, so I think it's really a moment of shifting priorities.
Exactly.
So I think this is the main thing that we can see now, is that people have refocused on their main interests. So, you know, and also obviously COVID brought a lot of people to healthcare, to here in the US, to, you know, fighting racism. And so culture is still like a very important area. So many people missed like traveling, missed going to museums. So I think it's not really up or down. It's more people are shifting around. Some people are discovered how much they cared about cultural heritage and about culture, and some people became more focused on other things.
I think that since people cannot travel so much, your website can be a very interesting way to move around, to discover new sites, because of also this global horizon that you can experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Our website is great, wmf.org, and you can discover a lot of our projects, but also our social media. We are on every social media, and this is also maybe a more interactive way to discover our projects. And then for people who are interested or who who really want to travel, I really encourage them to look at our videos of Heritage from Home, where we take them to visit our sites in India, in Iraq, in Peru, many different places in the world.
Are you going to have some events when the COVID hopefully will be over here in New York? Are you organizing some exhibitions or something?
No, we organize regularly some conferences, and so yes, I think this is a question we are all wondering about, whether we are going to continue digitally, what part will resume in person, and I think it will be a mix. So I can't wait to see our members and our public come back and organize events again. But at the same time, I think this period has shown us that we have such an incredible audience internationally that we also want to continue the dialogue with them.
Yes, I think you are right. We are not going back. No. We learned so much.
It is an enrichment. We will go back in person, but we will keep some of the digital events.
Yes, I hope that in the future we can organize something together.
Yeah, with great pleasure. I think around our projects in Italy, we've done so much. Like we've been active in Venice for many projects, but also in Rome with the Arc of Janus, in Pompeii.
But I'd love also to have a presentation also about, for instance, Africa, because there is such in the Mediterranean area an interaction between different cultures that I never thought that Italy was just Italy. And so with all the people coming from Africa now and all the relations we had in the past, I think that it would be wonderful for our public to know what you are doing all around.
With great pleasure, whenever you want.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bénédicte, for coming.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.